Welcome to Zombie Strains, the podcast where we watch all the zombie movies in chronological order. The year, still 1959. With invaders so terrifying, our heroes can only defeat them from the Batcave.
You know, I've seen people act like that in pictures. What do they call them, zombies or something?
Zombie.
What's a zombie?
Just what is a zombie?
Well, a zombie, there's, Mr. Bill, there's the living dead.
They are the living dead.
Get in the zombies.
It's an army of zombies. No armies could stand.
Because a zombie has no will of his own.
What is wrong? What is wrong?
Hey everybody, John here.
This is Andy.
I'm Brad.
So let me ask this question right up front. Are Invisible Invaders from Invisible Invaders 1959 invisible because the director wanted to build slow creeping horror much like in Alien or Jaws, or did they just not have enough money to show the invaders? What's your take?
What does your heart tell you, John?
My heart tells me it's the latter, but I want to believe the former.
Well, they do build up to a very suspenseful scene when they promise that one will be revealed to us. And I guess our listeners will have to wait in suspense to find out if it really pays off or if it's the dumbest thing you've ever seen.
That's a great question. All right. Anything we need to sweat in this one, Andy?
Nope. This one's pretty squeaky clean, I think. I didn't notice any content or trigger warning type issues at all.
No, but there is some amazing zombie stuff in here. So,
yes. I was blown away at how much important zombie stuff is in this movie. I was just absolutely blown away by it.
Yeah, I'm excited. But before we get there, we've got to know all the deets. What about this Batcave, Brad? Fill us in on this whole deal.
Invisible Invaders was released on May 15th, 1959. It's our second zombie film from 1959 after The Four Skulls of Jonathan Drake. 1959's other notable films include North by Northwest, Some Like It Hot, and Ben-Hur. Horror films from this year were a mixture of science fiction and classic horror. First Man in Space, The Giant Gila Monster, The Hound of the Baskervilles, The Mummy, and The Return of the Fly. Ed Kahn is the director. This is the fourth zombie film we've watched that he directed, the others being Creature with the Atom Brain, Zombies of Moratau, and The Four Skulls of Jonathan Drake.
I wonder if we've got a candidate for the Hall of Fame, but I don't want to tip our hand.
I think quantity and now quality is zombie.
Yeah, impact, right?
Zombie impact is starting to creep up.
Yeah.
Or shall we say shamble up.
Shamble up.
Samuel Newman wrote the screenplay. He wrote a lot of B movies and TV shows. His biggest TV credit is 109 episodes of Perry Mason, which is a departure from this. John Agar plays the hero, Major Bruce J. He was the sixth person and third actor to receive the Life Career Award from the Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror. The five people before him were Fritz Lang, Samuel Z. Arkoff, Christopher Lee, Gene Roddenberry, and William Shatner.
Holy cow. That's
pretty good company.
Esteemed company.
So it's amazing that there's an actor we probably have never heard of who's just done a ton of work in a genre that we're not as familiar with.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like a lot of the trends in film we're kind of missing because I think there's a lot of movies like The Day the Earth Stood Still and other stuff like that coming out at this time that aren't on our radar because they don't have zombies in them, but are really impactful on genre film in general.
Yes, and in a moment I'll list some of those films that he was in. He was also Shirley Temple's first husband, though the marriage only lasted 4 years. His biggest early films were John Wayne flicks. He was in Fort Apache, She Wore a Yellow Ribbon, and Sands of Iwo Jima. In the 50s, he was in many sci-fi B movies like The Rocket Man, Revenge of the Creature, Tarantula, The Mole People, The Brain from Planet Eros, Attack of the Puppet People, and Destination Space.
Attack of the Puppet People might be on our list of movies to watch just because of the title.
He continued acting into the 90s, and he was in the 1976 movie King Kong and the 1988 movie Miracle Mile, if you remember that one. Jean Bryan plays Phyllis Penner. She was in several B movies in the 50s, The Magnetic Monster, Serpent of the Nile, and Jungle Moon Men. But she's probably best known for playing Patty Duke's mother on The Patty Duke Show from 1963 to 66. Philip Tong plays Dr. Adam Penner. He was a friend of Noel Coward and was cast in several of Coward's plays. He is best known for his role as the head of Macy's toy shop in Miracle on 34th Street. And he died in 1959, the year Invisible Invaders was released.
But his like pinched face and mustache, like now that you say that he was in Noel Coward Plays, I'm like, he belongs in Noel Coward Plays.
On his Wikipedia page, it says that he and Coward had a relationship at a very young age.
Mm-hmm.
And you go to Coward's page and there's no mention of him. So
interesting.
I don't know if there's a battle going on there, but I didn't want to mention it because I couldn't verify anything, but it is out there. Robert Hutton plays Dr. John Lamont. Early in his career, Warner Brothers felt he looked like Jimmy Stewart. And when Stewart was enlisted in the Army during World War II, Hutton got some of the parts that would have gone to Stewart. He starred in a variety of films in the 40s, and in the early 50s starred in independent films or was the ensemble of studio films. One of his starring roles was in the film, this is for you guys, The Man Without a Body, produced by Guido Cohen. Hutton plays a man with a brain tumor and needing a new brain, digs up Nostradamus' head.
Wow. I want to see that.
I looked at it to see if it was a zombie film, but because when the head is revived, it's Nostradamus, it's not really a zombie film.
No, but I just imagine like Nostradamus talking to me as a disembodied head, and I feel like that sounds like a great movie.
I can see the special effects in my head right now as we talk.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
We've seen the special effects, yes.
Yes.
Hutton is also our second actor to appear in You Only Live Twice, the James Bond film from 1967. He was uncredited as an aide to the president. Teru Shimada was the other actor who was in Revolt of the Zombies.
That's right.
The last half of this film takes place in a science bunker. The exterior of the bunker is in Bronson Canyon in the Hollywood Hills, just a few miles from where I live. The cave we see them go in and out of is the same cave used as the Batcave in the 60s TV show.
That makes me so happy. I
But
can't even tell you.
they are using the east portal of the cave. The west portal is the Batcave. So it's an open park, you can go there. If you go in the Batcave, you go all the way through and you come out the other cave, which is what we see in this film.
Oh, okay.
Many films and TV shows have been shot there, including The Sword and the Sorcerer, Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, and all of the Star Trek TV shows. Now,
Is this like the cave that they use in all Star Trek shows anytime they go into a cave, which is often?
I don't know if it's the cave because there's another exterior location, which I'm blanking on the name, that they use all the time where they show them climbing on rocks and sliding down rocks. That's a different place than this one.
Okay.
Also, and if you listen to Brad's other podcast, Multiplex Overthruster, Javier goes on a tirade about not being able to find a cave on a truck in Vancouver. So apparently in Hollywood, you can also just have a cave delivered via truck to your set.
Pre-built sets, yes.
Yeah.
Did you notice the Geiger counter in the film?
I did.
It's certainly noticed it's clicking presents.
Did you do, for me, this was a rabbit hole. Did anyone else go looking into this?
I did not. It had a funny name and I didn't note it down. What was it?
It's called Detectron.
Detectron, that's right.
And it's a real name. It's a real company that was formed in 1949 in North Hollywood because there was a uranium boom in the U.S. The U.S. needed uranium, and the government encouraged private citizens and companies to go prospect for uranium.
Don't try that at home in the modern age,
That's
folks.
incredible.
So this company came out with a variety of Geiger counters, and there's a website that has all these ads talking about how you can make a lot of money for minimal effort. Their lowest end one was $99, and they went to over $1,000 for their units.
I assume they are built entirely out of lead and asbestos, and with maybe mercury. Yeah.
I didn't see that, but it did say in the ads that they built everything in-house in their shop. All
Amazing.
components were sturdy, it said.
Nice. Are you going to dig into the special effects guy here? I'm reading these notes, and this guy's amazing.
I looked him up. This was the first film that he did. He then formed a company which is still around, and someone else runs it. But yeah, he did a ton of films, and you have to be careful. Special effects can mean what the big things we see on screen that we think of, like the giant monsters, but it could also be, smoke coming out of a radiator.
Right.
So he was, I think, master of all those kinds of things.
Yeah, but his list of like 80s movies is bananas. The Howling, The Terminator, Chopping Mall.
Right. And on those, I don't believe he did like the makeup effects. I'd have to research. It was a little hard to find everything. But some of them, like he was on the Terminator, but he wasn't the special effects guy. He was a special effects guy.
Right. But I love that. It's sort of like getting Adam West's first role, right? We're getting somebody from a legendary SF shop or FX shop.
I did
early.
find a brief interview with the person who took over the company, who was regaling about this. Wait, what was his name? Since we're Roger George, talking about Roger George and how he's one of the originals. He's one of the founders of modern special effects. So at least this person revered him.
Yeah, and it's a mix of beloved 80s movies and like stuff that sounds like absolute garbage, right? Because we have Battle Beyond the Stars there, and we also have The Return of Count Yorga. So,
And Munchies.
And Munchies, yes, for sure. Interesting. So we'll keep an eye out for Roger.
No box office records are available as usual for this era. So Andy, you're up with historical content.
Sure thing. Well, we talked about what was going on in 1959 in our last episode, so I'm not just going to blanket repeat that, but I did pick out a couple of things that felt relevant to this film. This was the year the first integrated circuit was developed. A little bit of Andy factoid. My dad, who would have been a teenager in 1959, spent most of his professional career designing integrated circuits. So that's a little exciting.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Interesting.
The US and the Soviets are both launching satellites now. We are past that Sputnik scare, and we are into the real space race. And this is the year that Russian probes reached the moon and photographed the dark side of the moon for the first time. This movie posits that the moon has been inhabited by invisible aliens for 20,000 years. So
correct.
That feels a little relevant, I guess. And lastly, John, I mostly include this just for the two of us here, but this was the year of that Khrushchev toured the U.S. and had the kitchen debates with Vice President Nixon, where they traded barbs about capitalist and communist economies. So
that's amazing. Thank you.
That's all I really got. I think the moon stuff is really the big thing that touches on this movie.
So the plot of this movie, the 60-second version, is that there's a Dr. Penner who is visited by aliens, and the aliens tell him that the Earth must surrender in 24 hours or they will invade and destroy it. These are the aliens from these 20,000-year-old aliens that are on the moon. Further, these aliens are invisible, but they have a device that lets their technology be seen. We go back and forth a lot. The apocalypse actually starts. Dr. Penner, his daughter Phyllis, a Major Ray, and Dr. Lamont are trapped in the Batcave trying to come up with a solution to stop these invaders. These invaders have come down, they're invisible, and what they do is possess the bodies of deceased humans. Most of the movie is spent in the cave trying to suss this out. They figure out a solution, which is to use different kinds of sound waves, and end up saving the Earth and get celebrated at the United Nations. Did I miss any of the big stuff in there, Andy?
No, that's perfect. I have him down as Major J. Did I just mishear that through the whole movie?
You're right. It's J. I'm sorry. So let's get into it. I want to start right off the gate because it's amazing. The movie has this weird... I feel like this is bargain basement storytelling, and yet at the same time, at least to start, it's delightful.
Yeah.
The framing of it is there's some narrator who they're just the voice of God, I guess, who is narrating what's going on in the world. And anytime there's a plot point or the characters are trying to do anything, he narrates. So the characters will talk about it, and then they'll do it to the narration of the guy explaining what they're doing, even though they just talked about it.
This movie relies so heavily on the narrator. And I don't know if it's a lot of the times the narrator is just covering up that they don't have the budget to actually film the scenes that they are planning. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Did you notice what grammatical verb tense this narrator is obsessed with using?
I did. What is it?
The past perfect passive. This narrator is constantly saying things like a deep hole had been dug. And it had been filled, which is a weird. I mean, it's not like it's a mystery of who dug the pit and who,
because they're showing us and get out of the truck with a shovel.
Exactly. It's just an odd choice. It's maybe the least exciting way to narrate information is with that particular verb tense. So
yeah. So this is a funny movie because
Andy needs to get some award for bringing grammar of such specificity in like that. I wouldn't have known that.
Yeah. So listeners out there, the way this works is Brad and I sometimes write things. I will write a bad show description. Then Andy makes it not terrible and corrects all the grammar. So now you know where that comes from. But let's get into it because this movie is so fun and has so many great zombie bits, but has long stretches where it's just sort of like, get on with it already. So I just want to sort of hit the highlights of the zombie bits, but we can talk about whatever you want. But let's start with the opening, right? Yep. So first of all, theremin. Do we all hear a theremin in the opening?
We hear lots of theremin, yes.
Is it a theremin ensemble, would you say? I feel like there's more than one theremin here.
It subjectively feels like you're being subjected to more than one of them, yes.
Okay, fair enough. And then we open on John Carradine in a lab coat working in his lab. And I'm like, oh, great, John Carradine's going to be our movie. However, very shortly, our narrator takes care of John Carradine, and it sounds like this.
Sometimes machines and men, such as Carl Neumann, are driven beyond the line of endurance. And when that happens...
So that's amazing. We get 30 seconds of John Carradine. He's holding a beaker in a lab with a beeping sound that sounds like the beeping sound from the original Starship Enterprise. And then it all explodes. And I'm like, well, I have no idea what's going on now.
Yes. We're going to later see Dr. Neumann's corpse. And for someone who just died in a lab explosion, it's remarkably well preserved.
Yes, I suspect John didn't want to wear a ton of makeup because there are other zombie-like creatures with more makeup than him in this movie.
I think, and it was an atomic explosion, too.
Yeah, right?
I think he witnessed the explosion, and then he survived, but he had a heart attack from like stress from it, I think, is the only way to explain the perfect state of his corpse.
Yes. So here's the next interesting part, Andy, and we'll talk about this in the closing, but what happens next is our hero, who is a Dr. Penner, debating a general, and he says, I'm going to quit the Atomic Power Commission. So we don't have to go to this scene in detail, but it's something we talked about in our 1950s episode. Like, what are they debating, Andy?
This is a version of the concern that a lot of the nuclear scientists voiced, which was that we built these atomic weapons for the purpose of fighting World War II and winning that war, but we don't need to keep expanding this because it's going to start having... we can't anticipate how destructive it's going to be on the entire environment. And here, I think... Dr. Penner is concerned that we are sending like radiation out into space, and it might have some sort of adverse effect on our solar system or something like that. It's just fear that this new escalating deadliness of these weapons was going to get out of control. Is that what you're going for?
Yeah, and specifically, this whole thing feels like an anti-atomic energy and atomic weapons movie.
It does,
you know, like Dr. Penner is a voice for peace, and all of this business about nuclear bomb tests and all this, he's opposed to it. And I think he's voicing, this is 1959, like we're not in the 60s yet, but I think the idea that we don't have to be so warlike or need all these weapons is seeping into the popular consciousness, and we're starting to see it here, where somebody actually gives a lecture about not having this technology.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we cut to Carl Neumann's funeral. Him and Penner were, of course, best buddies. He talks about all of Penner's work, and he gives another speech that's like, well, we've lost our way. You know, so there's definitely this vibe of like atomic energy is not a great idea. But we do get our first terrifying glimpse of our invisible invader. Yes. How does the invisible invader manifest itself first?
Yeah.
What stunning special effect do they treat us to?
While they're at the funeral, we see footprints sliding, invisible footprints like shuffling across the ground.
Right.
They really love the special effect. It's really the only way they figured out how to indicate the presence of an invisible alien was to show it slow. And I can't overstate how slow these things move.
Yeah, like good thing they're invisible. Otherwise, they wouldn't stand a chance against a house cat. Like,
yes.
Yeah. Now, don't forget, are also rustling leaves.
Yes, and some foliage is rustled as if something is pushing its way through it. Maybe. Yes. So, yes, for most of the movie, this is how we will be alerted to the presence of an invisible invader, is by seeing its footsteps, which from the looks of it, it looks like its feet are like square, as if it's got like robot. It was giving, even though we cannot see it, it was giving me like robot
Yes.
or robot vibes. Just
robot
by the looks of it.
For 1964, so we have to say robot.
Yes.
Do you think kids in the 50s saw this movie, went home and got some string, put it underground, and started dragging it to create like this invisible creature coming towards their friends?
God,
it's such a
so.
simple effect, but I would have done that.
Yeah, but it's also like we're mocking it, but I don't know. If you've never seen modern special effects, you might go, how do they do that? And really want to recreate it. I think you're right, Brad. I think this could spark the imagination of a future FX person for sure.
For sure. I mock it not because the effect is bad. I mean, it is a perfectly workable effect.
You can see the string at times.
Yeah, you can. At one point, there's a one of the invisible creatures is talking through a microphone, and you can literally see the string holding the microphone. In the air.
Yes.
So yeah, for sure. But we're also introduced to Dr. Penner's daughter, Phyllis, her not boyfriend, but her friend, or Dr. Penner's friend, Dr. Lamont, are at the funeral as well. What is it with old doctors and their daughters? This is another movie where it's all 50-year-old men and then one younger woman. Again, I have no thoughts on this or why this is happening.
I don't have anything. I have no insight into that.
Yeah, it's another completely whitewashed movie with literally 40 to 50-year-old men. Even all the zombies, when we see them later, are like 40-year-old men in suits. Like, just like there's one female in this movie, and it's Phyllis Penner. So
I took another. Are the zombies just like, or are the aliens just sort of a genteel, old school gentlemanly? They don't want to disturb the corpses of ladies and children, or
I guess, I guess that makes sense. I could see. Anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves. We do also hear sort of a snarling from this invisible creature, but. And then we sort of zoom in on the casket and see the footprints moving toward it again. But we cut away from that to Dr. Penner in his home. He's upset. There's a knock on the door. And who's at the door, Andy?
At the door is the deceased Dr. Neumann.
Yes. He comes in and he delivers so much exposition about what's going to happen. I couldn't pick what to clip. I literally picked, like I noted 3 different clips that would work here, and I picked one. But he lays out the plan is that we're these invisible, he's like, I'm an animated corpse. Inside me is an invisible invader. And their technology is so advanced that you have no chance. So you must convince the world to surrender in 24 hours. First of all, I do have a clip I want to play here, but this is our first zombie. This is a possessed zombie.
Yeah.
It is dead. People can speak through it, but later our zombies are not like that. As a first zombie, how are we feeling about this?
So far, pretty standard based on the past movies we've watched. He has kind of a gaunt, cadaverous look, but there's not much in the way of makeup, put on here.
Right.
Later in this movie, I don't want to spoil it, but we're going to get some great makeup effects for our zombies. We are. But this one, there's not much. It mostly just looks like a slightly gaunt, old guy intoning these, threatening messages.
However, since he is John Carradine and does have that voice, when he does threaten the Earth, it does sound pretty good, and that's what we have in our next clip.
We cannot be defeated. We have never been defeated. Just as I have done with the dead body of Carol Neumann. My people will come to your planet and inhabit the bodies of other dead Earthmen. The dead will kill the living, and the people of Earth will cease to exist.
Okay. So, I feel like as far as a jump in zombie technology or stakes in a zombie movie, we just went from 0 to 60.
Yes.
Like, right? The dead will rise and kill all the living, and there'll be an apocalypse. And suddenly we're here. Suddenly we're at this place where we have both apocalypse and zombies wandering around killing the living in a way that we've been moving towards. Like, none of this, let me just pause and say, none of this is an actual planned progression, right? We have the hindsight of history here, but boy, it sure feels like it. Like, I can draw a line here, and especially since it's the same director. Like, I feel like his animated zombies have been evolving.
Yes, yeah, there is that real sense. It's crazy to think that this one guy might be single-handedly kind of pushing the zombie genre really noticeably towards its modern form.
Yeah, I was really it's Edward Kahn, Cahn, just for people who missed it at the beginning. But with the movies he stacked up here, this is kind of extraordinary, and I feel like we're so close. So we're 9 years out, right, from Night of the Living Dead. There's one big piece missing here, which is Contagion, right? But everything else in this movie makes me feel like we're so close to the modern idea of zombie.
Absolutely, There's a couple things about this. This is also so the reason that the aliens have noticed Earth and decided to conquer us is because they've noticed we have reached the atomic age, basically. And so this isn't a zombie trope, but this is definitely a sci-fi trope of sort of aliens, hostile or otherwise, waiting until you develop space travel or nuclear weapons or something, and then stepping in to intervene.
It's the plot of Star Trek. It's not First Contact.
First Contact, Star Trek.
Yeah,
First
it
Contact.
is where Vulcans detect them deploying their first warp drive and come to say hi.
Yep,
it's the exact same premise.
Yeah, it's in a bunch of movies. I think the Mass Effect video games were centered around this. Alistair Reynolds' Revelation Space. Anyway, I'm a fan of that, and I think it is just interesting that in 1959 we were wondering if we were this is an interesting fear to have in 1959, I think.
Yeah, it's sort of like, if you jump ahead, it's sort of like the Fermi paradox, right? Where if there's all this potential life out there, and if there's this communication going on, why don't we hear anybody? And one of the solutions to that theory is because everybody who made their voice too loud got silenced, right? So that's sort of the dark, scary part of that part.
Yeah, absolutely. I question the aliens' plan. Like, how compelling is it to say, we're going to wipe you out? Do you want to surrender? Like, I mean, that's
does that ever work for them? Yeah.
Generally speaking, these aliens have been around for tens of thousands of years. They've been doing this for a long time. You would think they would have a better pitch for handling these situations.
For sure. And the other thing I want to say is these aliens are intergalactic, right? Which is the first time that sort of gets mentioned, is that they're not just from Mars or something. They've been tooling around the galaxy, taking over civilizations for millennia, the way they pitch it, right?
Yeah, the idea that no other galactic civilization has managed to defeat these snarling, slow-moving aliens is really hard to accept. But but yeah, specifically, the moon is one of their outposts that they founded like 20,000 years ago. So
yeah, so let's break down the next part of the movie. So what happens is, there's Dr. Penner, there's Dr. Lamont, who is Don, and Phyllis, who's he's sometimes called Phil, so that's not confusing at all. But what happens here is Dr. Penner says to Dr. Lamont, who's kind of maybe in a relationship with his daughter, but it's not really clear.
They're like childhood friends, but it's suggested that he at least wants there to be some romance.
Yes, yeah, great, that's perfect. And then, he tries to convince Lamont, he's like, I've quit the Atomic Energy Commission, but we have to convince people that this invasion is coming. Don says it's ridiculous. We'll make fools of ourselves. Finally, Phyllis talks him into going back. He goes to Washington, and the next thing is a montage of insulting newspaper headlines making fun of the idea that there are invisible invaders. Yes. My favorite one, it says, "See the first photo of the invisible invader," and it's a blank front page with a square around it. I was like, dang.
So what's amazing, this is all taking place within a 12-hour span of time. So
yes,
every major newspaper jumped on this story so quickly of that a lunatic was talking about invisible space aliens.
Yeah.
And put it on the front page.
Yeah, who needs the internet to spread things fast?
I know.
Yeah.
That's faster than Instagram.
And this is like Scared Stiff and what was the first one? Ghostbreakers.
Ghostbreakers.
Because there's a murder, and then within 2 hours, the evening newspaper comes out with a whole article and photos on it.
Yeah, what ammunition was used, what, the whole thing.
It's interesting.
It's really funny.
This is what we've lost as we've kind of killed journalism.
Well, what's kind of funny is we all complain about how immediate it all is and how people don't pause to think before they write their stories. And I'm like, oh, nope, I guess that never happened. Okay, well, we're good.
John, there's a little A little thing that I think we forgot to talk about when Penner was being given this sort of ultimatum from Zombie Neumann. Zombie Neumann, he has a piece of metal that they use for, like, I don't know, all of their spaceships and stuff that's invisible.
Yeah. It's a material for their spaceships. It's not at all, by the way, a crumpled up piece of tinfoil.
Yeah, it looked like a potato wrapped in tinfoil is how I described it. But what this little scene kind of sets up is that the aliens and their tech is all invisible, but there is some kind of mechanism that can render it visible because the alien does this briefly to show it off, essentially. Right. So that's sort of Chekhov's like invisibility revealing mechanism there.
And he even drops the whole solution. Spoiler, he says, "What's that sound?" And then he picks up the connection later and goes, "Oh, it's sound." There's some great bits coming up though, so he tries. Don fails to convince anybody. There is a kind of great scene of Dr. Penner looking out the window, and he says, "Lord," and I didn't pull the clip. I almost did, but we had so many clips, I didn't think we needed it. But he says, "Dear Lord, I pray that I'm not insane." Like even he is doubting himself. And yeah, there's something just kind of. I start to feel for Dr. Penner a little bit here, right? He's the isolated man the only man with the truth who can't convince the world it's going to end.
I agree. I actually liked his performance quite a bit. I think he convincingly portrays this sort of kind of tired scientist. He doesn't want to be doing any of this. He's been chosen to be a messenger, like in a sort of biblical sense, to a world that is not going to believe him. And I don't know. He puts in a better performance than this movie really needs from him. So I wanted to say, I didn't think of it until this scene where he is praying, that we have seen relatively little, I guess, like kind of Christianity in all these zombie movies. Christianity or some sort of Judeo-Christian sort of faith is a standard weapon against vampires or lots of other horror threats, right? But we have not really seen that weaponized against zombies at all. And in this scene, Dr. Penner is not really weaponizing this against the aliens or the zombies. He's just asking God for help and perseverance. But I just thought that was kind of interesting that we have this horror genre that has dipped into the supernatural and the science explanations for its horror, but we haven't seen Christianity as sort of the cure for it or the weapon to be used against it.
Yeah, now that you say it, that's kind of a startling omission, right? Because we are talking about, we do not think Haitian voodoo is a satanic religion, but the people in these movies do. And if they think that, where are the crosses? Where's the prayers? Where's the priest?
Exactly. I mean? Yeah, no one. I can't think of any zombie movies, where someone's holding a crucifix up against an advancing zombie horde or something.
Right. So, that's a great observation. Yeah.
Anyway, just a little minor aside.
No, that's great. And Don comes back and says, "Oh, you loser, you've embarrassed us both. Nobody believes." And he has this, Dr. Penner has this great line, and he says, "I want to believe I'm out of my mind," which I picked up on. Like, "I want to believe" is a sentence we all love from the 90s. So they figure they have to do something. They go back to Carol's grave. There's more shuffling feet, snarling voices, moving branches, and they do get a message that the people of Earth will have one more warning. And then that's it. That's the last warning they're going to get. So the narrator comes back. He tells us about the warning they're going to get. And the warning that comes, again, in the passive perfect third person, is that it?
Yes, the past perfect passive tense.
Past perfect
passive. A warning had been given.
A warning came. Because he says a warning came in the form of a fatal air crash as the crash is happening, as if it's in the past, but it's not in the past. We're literally watching it. Anyway,
this narration. I don't know if this is a stylistic choice, but the narration almost treats this like a documentary of. Like, yes. You know what I mean? Just by using the past tense for everything. I don't know if that's an intentional storytelling framing device or just the way that I don't know. It was interesting. I liked to think of it that we were watching almost a documentary of like how the Earth survived the invisible alien invaders. But
yes. Now, There's two parts to the warning. So first of all, there couldn't be an easier military plane to guess. Did anybody get it besides me?
A B-17.
There's a B-17.
Yep.
That is being intentionally crashed into a hillside. There's a giant X on the hillside. So I don't know what that's about. Some sort of stock footage of an Air Force test or something. But
yeah, I wondered the same thing.
It's an old plane from World War II. We used a gazillion of them, and it's 1959, so I assume we don't use them anymore. Anyway, that's our plane crash.
I think they were still in use in like various developing countries, like sort of cold. I think we gave these to some Cold War allies
before we did the B-52 jet. Yeah, probably.
Anyway, I love B-17s. By the way, I'm quite fond of them. But I was bummed to see this one crashing into a mountain.
Yeah, clearly it's an intentional thing. So I'm just curious where the stock footage came from. But importantly, that's not how the warning comes. The warning comes is the pilot of the plane is reanimated by an invisible invader. He looks really gnarly, and he wanders into the obvious place to go if you want to warn the world, which is a TV broadcast of a hockey game.
Yes.
And he comes in and he strangles the host who's doing the color. Actually, the best part is he strangles the sound guy first, and the host doesn't notice. And then he strangles the host, takes over the microphone.
And these people are sitting 2 feet away from each other. It's the most silent strangling you've ever heard.
Yeah.
Can we talk though about what he looks like?
Yes, please.
Okay. I think this is our first truly modern gross zombie makeup.
For sure. He's got like cuts on his face.
Yeah, we see the corpse as if, I mean, it's not plot. If this guy had been in the front of that plane that hit that mountain, he would be in tiny, tiny pieces. But they have done their best to show us a corpse that shows the damage it received that killed it. And which means he's got a bunch of kind of bloody gouges across his face. And
absolutely.
We've seen different attempts at, we've seen different zombie makeup, and in a couple times they've sort of taken some steps in the direction of showing us a gross zombie, but this is the quote grossest zombie we've seen to date. Do you agree with that?
I 100% agree. In fact, when we were in Scared Stiff, we literally saw a guy with messed up hair and no shoes, and that was their,
Yes.
So I feel like this is a clear move towards what we are expecting a zombie to look like.
Yes.
Right. Mm-hmm. Fully clothed, but they clearly look dead, and they have the scars of their death on their face. Right. Yeah.
I went back and looked at photos to White Zombie, and do you remember the big zombie with the big barrel chest from that movie?
That's right. Yep.
He does have makeup that makes him look gaunt, but there aren't wounds or decaying flesh makeup.
Yeah.
There are other films like that. Bowery at Midnight, when you look into the cellar, some of them have gaunt makeup. Again, no wounds or decaying flesh. Revenge of the Zombies seems to have some, though it might be lighting too. So there have been an attempt to make these look scary and gaunt. But you're right. I think this is the first time with injuries and wounds and decaying flesh on the zombie.
Yeah, it's like, for example, when we're watching Four Skulls of Jonathan Drake, that felt like a push forward in terms of gore. You know what I mean? And here we're taking that sensibility and applying it to the zombie,
So I thought this zombie looked great. Like, unironically, it looked like this was a good zombie, a good modern looking zombie.
Absolutely. And he gives this horrible warning to the people of Earth.
But the people of Earth, I know you say it's a TV broadcast. They never showed anyone on TV receiving it. They only show the people in the stands of the hockey game listening.
It might be the radio, because clearly the announcer is broadcasting somewhere. Maybe it's just the radio.
It gives the impression it's a broadcast that goes out, but the reaction is only in the arena.
Yes, you're right. And it's amazing because everyone's cheering, and then it becomes absolutely silent as this creature speaks.
Within 3 days, the dead will destroy all the living, and we will rule the earth. For the human race, this is the end of existence.
Like, dang. So there's and also, can I say, I feel like this is our first zombie-generated apocalypse too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we did have a little bit in
it's Creature with the Atom Brain, where they were set loose
in the
on
Creature
the city.
with the
Yep.
Yeah, they conducted mayhem around the city. Yeah, so in the Creature with the Atom Brain, right, there was mayhem and sabotage and stuff, and that's kind of what this is. But the scale here is like the whole world, and we have this narrator throughout the film constantly telling us, like, most Western nations have given up trying to stop all the fires. Like clearly, like, this is a template, or at least a inspiration for like a modern apocalypse in a way that I don't feel like we've seen. It could have been in a sci-fi movie somewhere we missed, but
yeah.
I don't know. What do you think about that, Andy?
Yeah, no, totally. What's interesting is, so Creature with the Atom Brain and this movie have posited that zombies set loose on the world would basically kind of destroy the infrastructure of civilization.
Yeah.
Which is, it's interesting. It's got that modern zombie sense of like, they will be unleashed and they will ruin everything. But these are zombies kind of acting with strategic, almost military purpose. Their threat is not that they are just going to eat everyone that they see mindlessly. It's that they're going to blow up power stations and dams, and they're going to, this idea of sabotage is kind of a funny word, because that suggests, both Creature from the Atom Brain and this movie, I think, use sabotage. Like, it suggests a sort of sneakiness, like they're sneaking in and planning explosives, or they're sneaking in and sabotaging these power stations and military bases. And that's a really, like, sabotage is like you have to have intelligence and a mission to sabotage something. So that's going to go away at some point before our modern zombies arrive.
For sure.
But it's definitely interesting.
Well, and so at this point, I feel like where we are right now with this movie is we have an apocalypse. We have zombies that look like zombies, and they wander around like the undead. They shuffle, they move slowly, they move in a horde. So we've got all those pieces, but we still don't have contagion, and and they're still too smart, right? The dead that are inhabited by the invisible invaders have agency. They're not mindless yet. They kind of look mindless when they walk, but they're not.
Yep.
So I feel like those are the pieces that are missing, but this still feels like just a huge jump, this movie. So
yeah, totally agreed.
And I made a mistake. That 3 days clip was actually from our next scene, which is this montage of terror.
Yeah.
With warnings, and there's an emergency meeting of...
Oh, John, shut up.
Oh. That's the other clip. We'll have to get to that later.
I was wondering when I was going to use that, but maybe this is the right spot when you make a mistake. In case you miss it, Andy, did you catch what that was?
No, I didn't.
Let's hear it again.
Oh, John, shut up.
Oh, yeah.
It's later in the movie.
Yes.
Phyllis says that when Dr. Lamont, John, who's named John, has like having a panic meltdown, and she says, "John, shut up." And I said, "Brad, you should probably clip this one and keep it handy."
But yeah, we got a second warning, which was like a car crash. Exact same deal. This time the zombie goes into like a sporting arena, like a big stadium or something.
Yeah, something. But there's so much going on here. The narrator's telling us, but my favorite line the narrator gives during this montage of the world collapsing is, Holland, Finland, and Russia were blown up.
Yes, I jotted that
Period.
down too. It was incredible.
That is incredible. And the narrator, like, so what happens? So let's get to the point. Let's set up what sort of happens in the rest of the film. So the narrator likes to keep things moving, and he says the Walking Dead were now everywhere and could not be killed. So there's a plan to send Dr. Penner to a secure location. He's going to go with Phyllis and Dr. Lamont, and our last main character, which is Major Jay, who's in the military, who has a Willys Jeep. He's going to pick them up, drive them to the secure location. Once they get there, they're humanity's last hope for figuring out what to do about these alien invaders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man,
I want to talk about the journey there because it's super important, but like, that's basically the framing. That's where we're going now in this movie.
No, that's perfect. Man, they needed would it have killed them to put one scene of people fighting the zombies and failing to kill them? Because
I know
this is all telling, not showing. Like, you don't see any of the real action. All the montage of destruction we see is just shots
stock
of like,
footage.
controlled demolitions of buildings or, that sort of thing. So
Firefighters fighting actual fires. Like, yeah, it's all stock footage. There's no, which is too bad. Like, that's the thing I think that's frustrating about this movie is it has so many wonderful zombie things in it, but it's so cheap and the narrator does so much heavy lifting that like he wants to believe he's not insane. I want to love this movie, without reservation, but it's so cheap it's just hard to do that. You know what I mean?
We'll get to this scene where they're driving to the underground bunker because it is a really genre important scene.
Hello. Yeah. So they all get in a Jeep and they start driving towards this isolated bunker. They're driving down a dirt road and a farmer stops them with a double-barreled shotgun and says, he basically gives a speech, and I'm sorry I didn't clip anything here, I really should have. He gives a speech about how his neighbors have, have risen from the dead and all these strange things are happening, and he wants to steal the Jeep so he can escape. And Major J shoots him, right? So what would you call a survivor shooting somebody who's in their way in order to get the mission? What is that, Andy?
That is a tough moral choice.
For sure. This is like, again, it's not a continuum, but this feels like they're inventing that trope right in front of us. Like survivors making difficult choices to survive. It's right here. Yeah.
Well, I think there's a lot going on here. So this scene is, we also see footage of riots basically and looting, and it suggests not just that like the countries of the world are being militarily defeated, but that civilization is breaking down in a way that feels like a very modern zombie movie style.
Absolutely.
And here we have our evidence of that. This guy, he needs a Jeep. They have a Jeep. He has the gun. He's going to take their Jeep, right? Like it's a very modern movie scene, I think. And then that tough choice of like, it's him or us, so Major J makes the choice to shoot the farmer, and it's upsetting to him and to Phyllis. This is a full-blown modern zombie scene, John.
Yeah. And as soon as he drives away, an invisible invader comes along and possesses the corpse of the farmer, and the farmer sort of tracks them around for the rest of the movie to some extent.
Yeah.
And sort of reveals their location. So, I mean, this is just, it's so proto-modern zombie movie. I was shocked it was here sort of so coherently all at once. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, this whole idea of people turning on each other, we just haven't seen it in any previous zombie movie.
Yeah, and I think again, like it's late 50s moving towards the 60s. It's the atomic age. It's the tensions of the Cold War. It's paranoia. We'll talk about all that after, but it's all coming together to form this scene where you don't trust your neighbor and feel justified in killing somebody else for your own survival.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know how much you want to talk about the discovery of the solution. Most of the rest of the movie is set in this bunker, which is the Batcave, where they have to try different things and figure different things out to try to stop the invisible invaders. And as they're there, they keep getting radio messages about how the federal government has been, evacuated, and there's a radiation alarm outside, and all kinds of stuff. And they make all these discoveries about the zombies. We can talk about, and there's great technobabble in here, by the way.
Yes.
I don't know how much we need to go through this in detail, Andy. If there's stuff you want to pull out, we should talk about it. But
sure, let me pull out one or two quick things, if that's okay. First, I wanted to say, so while they're in the bunker, the zombies, by later in the movie, the zombies find the bunker eventually and are like banging on the door to it. And it's a very modern zombie movie. We are hunkered in this shelter surrounded by a swarm of zombies. Like that could be... Sure. That's the exact same fear that you got in Dawn of the Dead, where the zombies are outside the mall and they're hunkered down inside.
Day of the Dead, Romero's 1985 film. They had scientists and military in an underground bunker.
Oh yeah,
that's what this felt
Romero
like to me.
did this
Exactly.
Yeah, Day of the Dead all the way, and the scientists are like experimenting on the zombie and trying to figure out all this stuff and train the zombie. Yeah, it's bizarre it's interesting. It's not bizarre. It's interesting how much that felt like that.
I also wanted to note that when we later see some footage of that farmer that killed the zombie farmer who had tried to steal their truck. When we see him later, he has like corpse makeup on his like eyes to make him look like he's starting to decay. Mm-hmm. And to like that suggests to me that, you know, these zombies will continue to decay after like they might decay and break down eventually, or get grosser and more decomposed. Does that make sense?
It does.
Maybe I'm reading a lot into one zombie with some eyeshadow makeup, but that's how I took it.
Yeah, and we do see a horde of zombies sort of walking across the earth towards the bunker, and there's, I don't know, a dozen to 20, but they all have this sort of gnarly makeup on. They're all, as we said, you know, middle-aged guys in suits, but they're definitely like a horde, and we're supposed to get the sense that zombies are covering the earth. I think this is a good time to talk about our archetypes, our Hunkering zombie character or zombie movie character archetypes, because we have some pretty solid ones we're going to see a lot in the future. Maybe not exactly, but
we do. We have a great and very distinct set of survivor archetypes.
Yeah, so first is Dr. Penner. He's the smart one, the one that they think can save humanity, right? So I think we'll see that again. He's also the leader in a way.
He is the leader. He's also kind of a fragile resource to be protected. He can't. Yes. He's older. He can't really do any frontline fighting.
Right. We have his daughter Phyllis, who I'm sorry to say is mostly here to be a sort of a damsel in distress. Though they do give her some aid. At one point, they say, "Do we need Phyllis to help?" And we're like, "No, we don't need anybody to take notes right now." So it is very sexist, but this will be a trope going forward, right? The weak person could be somebody weaker who needs to be protected.
Yeah.
Now the next two are interesting.
They sure are.
Which one do you want to do?
I'll do Dr.
Lamont.
I'm sorry, Lamont. Yes. Because Dr. Lamont is our survivor who kind of breaks under the pressure, under the strain.
Yes. Yeah.
He has been kind of on the same wavelength as the team for the movie up until this point, but here he starts to crack, and he starts to think maybe it would be better if we just surrendered. And why are we doing this? This is hopeless. Can't you see that we can't win? Let's take our chances. This is a very this character has a very long tradition in horror movies and zombie movies specifically. He's sort of the I thought of him sort of as the Hudson of the Hudson type of character, and he eventually will cause a lot of mayhem in an attempt to basically ruin things for the team.
And for the two millennials or Gen Zers who are listening, when he says Hudson, he means Private Hudson from Aliens, who's Bill Paxton's character, who freaks out. That's just great. I was short too, 6 weeks and out.
Yeah. Game over, man. Game over.
Game over. Yes. So definitely that trope for sure.
And so this type of character comes into direct conflict with another classic survivor archetype, which is...
Yes, the military authority figure. This is Major J in our movie. He is the tough one. He's the one who won't give up. He's going to do all the risky stuff to figure out how to solve this problem. And he serves as an example, a counterpoint to our developing coward, and gets Phyllis's admiration for it. So he's like, a parallel character would be Ving Rhames in the 2004 Dawn of the Dead, right?
Yep.
Competent, kind of knows what he's doing around fighting, and has good strategies for them to survive, and can help come up with plans and keep people safe. You know, he does all those things.
There's some nice character moments with Major J. For a while, he seems like a pretty one-note character, and he's still mostly a one-note character. But in a later conversation with Phyllis, he reveals that, he does. He feels bad about having to kill that farmer earlier. He only did it because he thought there was no choice. And he talks about his experience. He contrasts that with his experience in the Korean War.
Which I think is going to be our only mention of the Korean War in this whole podcast.
Yeah, I suspect you're probably correct. So he contrasts dropping bombs from a distance on targets you can't see to looking a man, looking him in the eyes and shooting him.
Right.
So I don't want to push the point too much, but I think we are starting to see protagonists who can be a little bit more vulnerable while also being tough.
Exactly. And we've seen this a couple times before in Voodoo Island, but more so in Zombies of Moratau. We had a character who was sort of broken by their military experience and can only be understood by the sympathetic female character.
Yep.
So this is, I think, an opening up of men being able to actually have feelings and not be the almost zombie-like robots they've been in the movies prior to this. So
yeah,
I find that enjoyable for sure. There's a bunch of stuff here. I don't want to go through every solution they try, but what they end up with is they have to capture a zombie that is possessed by an invisible invader, but they have to do it quickly. So they realize they can encase it in acrylic resin if they move quickly, and then they're going to bring it back to the lab, break open the acrylic coating, and have captured an invisible invader, study it so they figure out how to defeat them. That's what's going to happen for the next 30 minutes.
Yes.
As that's happening, the tension outside increases, right? More zombies come, they start banging on the door. They call the government. Things are more stressed out there. So it's really about them racing against time. Sadly, they take a lot of the steam out of this sequence by having the narrator show up and just tell us what's happening. And I'm like, oh, that's exciting, unless you talk about it nonstop, in which case it's not exciting, narrator man. So
Can I read a representative sample of the narration of this section?
Yes, please.
A deep hole had been dug, and now it was being filled with the acrylic liquid. The plan now was to lure one of the walking dead into the pit that had been dug.
Yes,
so
exactly.
A lot of that. Is that really exciting, listeners?
Super exciting. And we do learn a couple of things, though. First of all, as part of this plan, Major J goes out and has to encounter some of the zombies. He does try to shoot them, and they do show as resistant to bullets. So we also see that. The bullets don't do anything. The other thing, the meta thing they reveal is how hard it is to maintain narrative tension with a slow-walking zombie. There's at some point he's got to run away from this thing, and I'm like, he's really not trying because that thing is slow. One slow zombie, and I think modern movies get on this and are like, yeah, one slow zombie's fine. Like we saw this in Shaun of the Dead. Even a bunch of them are fine. It's the overwhelming weight of numbers that brings the terror, but we're not quite there yet.
It makes me think of Zombies of the Stratosphere, where they have to, running from the robot, they have to pause every now and then to let it catch up to menace them again.
Yes, exactly. So all of those tropes come together, and I think an important sequence, and I do want to talk about that. So first of all, the zombies are now trying to smash down the door. Dr. Lamont, named John, panics, and this is when Phyllis says,
"Oh, John, shut up."
So, in any case, that's the sense of Phyllis getting tired of Dr. Lamont.
If you're wondering which of these men is going to win Phyllis's love, that line seals it for you. It's going to be Major J.
But strangely, right after that, Lamont gets into a fight with Bruce J.
And is winning.
Is winning, yeah. He physically can keep up with them.
Yeah, which I found surprising. But what happens is, I think it's like a beaker or a fire extinguisher, something flies into the air and smashes the equipment, creating this horrible sound, which makes the creature they have trapped in this little room visible. And so here's Dr. Penner telling us about that.
John, I think we've hit on something.
What then?
The creature. You heard the alarm bell on the radiation counter? Well, the explosion and concussion made the creature react. Nothing else has.
React?
We've been looking the wrong way for our answer. It isn't in light waves or chemicals. The answer is in sound. Sound, John.
So there you go. Despite being a panicky weirdo, John actually does accidentally provide a solution to the entire problem.
The narrator words this as, "The vast scientific knowledge of the two men was put to the test."
It makes you wonder with how loud Dr. Penner is. Why couldn't he just defeat them by yelling at them?
Yeah, right. And also, I feel like the narration is just so strange to me. I have to remember this is a movie intended for young people, and that though Penner actually gives a great compelling speech there. Like they have to ruin it with this narration just to make sure nobody got lost,
Yes.
So, yes. So they try a bunch of different sounds. They invent a sound gun. They aim it at the creature, and it works. It forces the creature out of the dead body and turns it into a foaming pile of sludge simultaneously.
And yeah, do you want to describe the creature? We do get a little look at this.
It's kind of like a mummy.
Yeah.
Like it's a stumbling person, and they look like they're wrapped in like thick layers of quilting or something. And you only sort of see a white silhouette, and then they disappear and dissolve.
Does this seem like something that has been able to conquer multiple galaxies, John?
Yeah, no, not really.
Okay.
But we're gonna suspend our disbelief
That's
on
right,
that one
yes.
for a second.
What do you think of their sound guns, by the way?
Yeah, that gun looks like a giant version of the laser rifle that Kirk uses in the third aired episode of Star Trek, Where No Man Has Gone Before, where his friend becomes superpowered and possessed, and he has to bury him, and he shoots his laser at a rock. That is not relevant at all, but that's what it reminded me of. So they have these sound guns. There's a complication here in that they figure it out. They want to broadcast the news to everywhere so everybody can create a solution and we can take care of all the invisible invaders. But the spaceship that they've realized is in the area is jamming their signal. So they have to get in the truck with their sound guns, go to the spaceship, destroy it, and then they can send their signal. So that's the coda of the action of the movie. I don't know. This felt like something in, again, the 2004 Dawn of the Dead. They've got to drive the truck through the sea of zombies. It's just the sea is more like a inland lake, and
Yes.
and the zombies are a little less numerous.
It has a totally modern zombie feel. Yeah. So most of them are packed up in the truck, but then Major J is like riding on top of the truck with the gun. It's,
yes.
If you multiply the number of zombies here by about 50, you would have a totally modern scene.
Yeah, exactly. We did skip over a bit where Jay gets shot. I don't think it's
he gets shot. He gets shot up here while they're driving out to the spaceship to take it out with their sound guns so that they can lift the jamming that's going on. Which Jay gets shot, but not in any sort of fatal way.
No, and he does manage to blow up the ship with the sound guns. Then we cut to a picture of the UN building in New York City. And we get this, the narrator's final words bring us home.
In the United Nations building in New York, a special meeting was called. Present were Dr. Penner, his daughter, Major J, and Dr. Lamont, to receive grateful thanks from the countries of the world. Earth had been on the brink of disaster. But out of the Holocaust of war, in which a dictatorship of the universe had been defeated, a lesson had been learned. The nations of the world could work and fight together, side by side, in a common cause.
So, Andy, I actually found this surprising. Like, we've gone full peacenik here as well.
We have. I did note that is, in fact, not the lesson we have learned from this movie at all. This movie was not the story of people uniting in a common cause against a joint threat. It was a story of a couple of superheroic survivors saving the world single-handedly. But I respect the vision nonetheless.
Yes.
But Andy, my question is, in that monologue, did he use the proper tense that matched the previous monologues?
That was just regular past tense. So he did drop the more pretentious past perfect passive. But
and what is pluperfect? I'm trying to remember my grammar.
Pluperfect is that will have done.
I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, you're calling me out here. But listeners, write us in with some examples of the pluperfect, please.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
So that's a wrap.
It is a wrap. What
let's
a movie!
Get into
this
the questions, but yeah, in fact, we should get right to the questions because there's so much fascinating stuff here. Do you want any final thoughts before we dive in?
I don't think so. Let's just jump in. Thoughts? I think there's there's a lot to discuss here. So, John, let's start with our usual list of questions. Is there a hero party in this movie?
There 100% is. It feels like the prototype for hero parties, not only in zombie movies, but in other science fiction horror movies going forward. It feels like the group in Aliens, or it feels like the group in Night of the Living Dead, those people in the farmhouse, at the farmhouse at the end. So for sure, this is like a prototype.
We've got our stereotypes are very clearly set here. Yeah. Yep. How does the party do? How many survive?
All of them do, though some people get killed by the aliens. A lot of people get killed by the aliens. Our hero party all survive.
They do. One of them has kind of compromised himself by giving into his fears, but they graciously keep him in the hero party at the end.
Yeah, and for the record, they still do save the Earth. So there is an apocalypse, but the world doesn't actually end, despite Finland and Russia being blown
and
up.
Holland, I think. Yeah,
and Holland. Thank you.
Yeah. What a tragedy that was. Is there a zombie horde in this movie?
Yes, several. In fact, there's one decent sized one that we see, but it's implied that there's multitudes out roaming the world.
Yep, absolutely. How are zombies destroyed or killed in this movie?
Well, specifically by exposing them to a certain frequency of sound. Generally, though, it's by using a new technology to solve the problem, right? Bullets don't work. They can't be killed. So there's no shooting anybody in the head here. That doesn't work. So that's also a variant from the zombies we've come to expect. But there is a technology you have to use to kill them, and it's very specific.
Yep. Is the world threatened?
For sure. Absolutely. The world is in jeopardy of collapsing entirely. This is the most threatened we've seen the world in one of our movies. You could say something like The Day the Earth Stood Still or something, which is a much earlier film, depicted that, but in our zombie movies, this feels like the most threatened the Earth has been.
By far. What's the kill count, and how does that compare to previous zombie films?
So it's interesting because the only actual sort of death, right? Well, there's a couple of big ones, right? There's the farmer who gets shot, and there's Dr. Neumann who dies in an explosion at the beginning. Those are sort of the primary visceral deaths, but you could argue that there's millions of deaths that are depicted through stock footage.
I was trying to calculate the on-screen. I have 5. The farmer, the plane crash, so the pilot.
That's right.
The car crash, and then the 2 strangled announcers.
But they get up afterwards, yeah.
One of them does. The other one does not.
Oh, that's right.
But so let's say it's at least, 4 or 5. Like, again, we're moving towards being more comfortable with more deaths shown on screen.
And a couple of those, if not deaths, the strangulations at least, are done by an actual zombie.
Correct.
Directly, so,
yeah.
All right. What type of zombie strain are we dealing with, and is it new?
That's a great question. So we've been saying all along they look like the zombies we've come to expect, and that is true, but they're possessed. I mean, in this case, they're aliens, right? But it's really possessed by spirits, by invisible spirits, which is not quite, it's not mystical and it's not contagious. So it feels new to me. Have we had possessed people reanimated before?
I mean, we have had possessed we have had reanimated corpses controlled,
That's
generally
right.
remotely, though. So, as in the revived monster and in a few others. Yes. I think this
Creature
is
with Adam Brain.
Yeah,
Creature with the Adam Brain, for sure.
I think this is the first one, though, where they've been actually possessed by an entity that goes into them and controls them.
I would say it's new. I would say that it's a step forward and it's new. It's at least an evolution of that concept.
Yeah. Okay, so John, this brings us to your 4 pillars of the zombie movie, which I'm very excited to talk about.
I know.
This is going to be good. All right, so our first pillar, is there an apocalypse in this movie?
Absolutely. What's interesting is actually, I don't want to give this movie too much credit for having a metaphor, but what they're trying to say is, look, the use of atomic power will lead to an apocalypse. And it's a fictional apocalypse about aliens who've been sleeping on the moon. But the idea is that we could bring about our own apocalypse. And it also feels like an apocalypse from an invasion of horrific creatures. So 100% exactly the kind of apocalypse we are looking for in a zombie movie. It just isn't final. We get close.
Yes. And it includes elements like the breakdown of civil order.
Correct.
As part of that apocalypse. So
yeah, and that's kind of new. We saw it a little bit in The Creature with the Atom Brain, but this is double-barreled.
Yep. I think we already mentioned what is there contagion in this movie?
No. If you die, you can get possessed, but you cannot turn somebody else into a zombie.
And John, are there tough moral choices in this movie?
There's a great example of one. One is Lieutenant J shooting the farmer. The other is the farmer trying to steal the Jeep. And finally, it's deciding what to do with the weakest link in Dr. Lamont. I could see them, they were having a conversation, an argument about surrendering, right? And Dr. Lamont makes a tough moral choice to try to expose them all, which is a choice we'll start seeing in zombie movies. Like maybe I can get away. This is going back to Aliens, right? This is the Paul Reiser choice. I can abandon these guys and maybe make it if I'm sneaky.
Exactly.
So we get a little bit of that too.
And do loved ones turn against you in this movie?
Yes, though I wouldn't say the farmer is a loved one. I think it's implied, and I think it's pretty clear that the zombies are rising. And he does talk about loved ones turning against him. So for sure.
That's a pretty impressive score for this movie.
I think it's our highest scoring one yet.
Yeah.
Deservedly so. It's all here. It's so close, right? It's that benefit of hindsight, but you can see all the pieces kind of coming together in 1959. I want to look more into this director because I don't think I realized it until this movie. The evolution we've come through is largely through his lens, right? Like he's putting these pieces together. I don't know what other movies are around in terms of sci-fi that might be influencing him, but he's the one putting them together. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Yeah. All right. Well, I have questions for you.
All right. Bring them on.
Okay. Is paranoia a major theme in this movie?
I think so, yes. It's mostly embodied in that the farmer, this kind of concern that when things get tough, can you really count on the people around you? Are their base instincts going to override their civilized natures? I think that's pretty clearly expressed here. I
agree 100%. What about like conformity or hypocrisy and dark secrets? Are those here?
I didn't sense those real strongly in this film.
No. But how have our heroes changed, right? When we wrote this question, it was coming off the 30s and 40s where we had all these stolid, boring, square-jawed Captain America types. You know, we were hoping for a little more diversity, or maybe they will get younger. That hasn't happened. But I think there's a way that the heroes are different here. What do you think?
I totally agree. Well, I do think that we have a different hero that feels more of the times in the person of Major J, as we discussed. He is on the surface. I mean, he is our action hero, our stock action hero. But he does have moments of vulnerability when he talks about his war experience, when he talks about he feels bad about not only about having to shoot that farmer, but he expresses that he feels bad that he has to be such a hard case on the whole team to keep them together, to keep them moving in the right direction. I think that's a vulnerability we didn't see in any hero of the 30s or 40s.
I agree. Here's an interesting one. Will science and sci-fi take on a new role in our zombie movies? And did they in this movie?
So, yes, I think so. I mean, we are well into the atomic age, 1959, right?
Sure.
So this isn't new. I did wonder watching this, like when did that clicking of a Geiger counter first become a recognizable thing that filled you with dread? You know, like I wonder what was the first movie because that's that is 15 years old max, right?
Yeah. And we saw it in
Zombies of the Stratosphere.
Zombies of the Stratosphere.
Right.
They had the Geiger counter too.
So I think it's helpful to remember that like that's a fairly new thing that came onto the scene that has already acquired this very archetypal like horror vibe to it, I think.
Yeah,
but
it's iconic already. You know,
what we see here is just a really clear illustration of like the scientific process being used to tackle an insurmountable problem. We see people hypothesizing what will work, experimenting, doing field tests, revising their tests, trying again, and eventually coming to the conclusion while they are helped by sort of basically an act of lab sabotage. The solution they reach is the very scientific one, right? They they try everything that they can and they figure out what works and then they execute it and it succeeds. So that feels like a super modern scientific, a super modern use of science in a movie.
Yeah, it feels like the procedural, again, Creature with the Atom Brain.
Mm-hmm.
We get our first, forensics lab and that kind of stuff, and this feels all like an extension of that. Did this movie leave sort of local American roots and bring it to a broader stage?
I think so. Yes. I mean, so certainly, the entire world is threatened. We're explicitly told it. Well, the movie just shows us a bunch of white Americans. This movie, there's no particular local flavor to this movie.
No.
It's not like tied to a location or to a culture. In fact, where the place they go to solve the problem is like specifically outside of like any city or cultural location or community of any sort. They step outside of the world to solve the problems that face the entire world. That's really different from the hyper local horror that we saw in earlier movies.
Absolutely. And I think the movie has a message about unifying the world to solve problems, which is sort of broadening things by default. It's a little hokey, but that's sort of the intention behind it. So,
yeah.
All right. What's left?
Well, we have our last couple of questions, John. First, would you and I survive in this zombie world?
I think not, Andy.
No.
We don't have any skills to help solve the problem. I think we'd be those zombies walking on the ridge towards I hate to say it.
I think so too.
Yeah.
John, do you recommend this as a movie generally? And do you recommend this to our legion of zombie-loving listeners?
I do like it. It's a bit of a slog at times. The narrator does slow stuff down. And there were parts like when they were in the bunker trying to solve the problem where I was like, okay, let's move along here. So I'm going to give it a mild yes as a movie and a major absolutely yes as a zombie movie.
I am going to mostly agree. I'm going to give this a no recommendation as a general movie. Don't take your spouse, don't watch this date night with your spouse.
Yeah.
It is, however, a must watch if you're a zombie fan, in my opinion.
For sure.
All right. John, was this a zombie movie or a movie with zombies?
I feel like this is squarely a zombie movie. And not only that, it contains a bunch of zombie firsts or clarifications at the very least. There's so many of them. Let's recap them. We've got, first of all, not the realistic, but the sort of gnarly looking cadaver makeup for the first time. That's huge. On zombies that look like zombies we've come to expect. And a major apocalypse. Those are first for sure. What else do you think we need to
I think we've got our first really clearly delineated kind of survivor group of archetypes.
Yes.
And the first time we have survivors hunkering into a shelter surrounded by zombies.
Yeah.
We got mild hints of this in Zombies of Moratau when they were in the boat. I mean, we've had a couple of movies where they were like in a building or something and zombies were trying to get in, but this one felt like we're hunkered down in a base and surrounded. I noted this was our first tension within the survivor group, but then Zombies of Moratau had some tension within the group too, but I think this one feels like the actual first. What do you think?
In Zombies of Moratau, you felt like, well, they're bad people just trying to screw each other over. That's not the case here. It's literally just the tensions of the situation.
Yeah, it's these character archetypes coming into natural conflict with each other.
And I would also say this is the first tough moral choice that feels like what I meant when I stated that Pillar was part of zombie movies.
Yep.
There's other things that have been close, but this is like the first, like, there it is kind of one.
Anything else, Brad, that we missed?
I think one of the main ones is they captured a zombie to study it.
That's right.
Oh, interesting. Of course. Yep. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the bunker. Did we talk about the bunker?
We talked about the archetypes, but yes, the hunkering down in a bunker. This is definitely a first here. Like on the boat in Zombies of Moratau, they're inside the cabin to stay safe, but it's less intentional. It's like, well, the zombies attack and they have 1 second to get inside the cabin. Here, it's like a plan.
Yeah.
It's a science bunker.
Yes.
And it's a place to solve the problem.
Science bunker.
And I'll put in the show notes. There's a whole list of movies with science bunkers, and I'll put that in there.
Awesome.
So in other words, this is a movie packed with firsts.
Yeah, I think so.
That's an important one.
Yes, and I think it's the first time for me that I realized this director I've never heard of had a big hand in creating the modern zombie film, and I feel like I want to dive deeper into their work, not because they're particularly gifted, but because they're laying down the flagstones here.
They're synthesizing a lot of different ideas in a direction that we like.
For sure.
All right, so guys, this brings us to the scariest part of the episode. This is where producer Brad reveals to us what we will be watching next.
We have reached the moment that many of us have been waiting for. We are still in 1959.
That's our third movie in 1 year.
Though this movie was made in 1957.
Uh-huh.
So why was this movie on the shelf for so long? The answer is we are going to see. Here's the poster.
Oh, here it is. Plan 9 from Outer Space. Andy, do you want to read what it says on the top?
I would love to, John. Unspeakable horrors from outer space paralyze the living and resurrect the dead.
This is very exciting. It's made in 1957, as Brad mentioned. So this is the movie that was the subject of the film Ed Wood, starring Johnny Depp, featuring a great performance by Martin Landau as Bela Lugosi. That's not Plan 9 from Outer Space, but Ed Wood is about this movie, and there's a moment where Johnny Depp takes a phone call from a studio executive, and he says, "What do you think?" And there's a long pause. He goes, "Worst film you've ever seen? Well, my next film will be better." So I think there's this enthusiasm for making this terrible movie. This is a legendarily awful movie. I am both terrified and excited to watch it. So
I have never seen it.
Me too. I've only seen it in its Mystery Science Theater incarnation. So
yeah, it's terrible. We're not kidding here, but it might be so terrible you need to see it to understand. That's what I'm trying to say.
And who knows, maybe as we root around, we will find a first in here somewhere, right?
Plus, Bela Lugosi's last film scene and vampires in it. So, you get something.
There you go.
All right, everyone. We'll see you next episode for Plan 9 from Outer Space. You've been listening to Zombie Strains. We'll be back next episode to talk about another zombie movie. If you enjoyed our podcast, please take a moment to rate us in your podcast app of choice. Tell a friend. Follow us on Instagram at Zombie Strains. All of this helps like-minded people find the show. See you next time.